Is it online?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's gonna be like. It'll be there, at least I'll have that. No, next month, don't want to think about that. Till somebody- Yeah. And it's not Tuesday. I know. I thought the same thing. So I was like, why not? Oh. I'm like. Things I just put it together a little bit.
All right, guys. So from our last week's class, we're talking about different texture maps, right? And then we start to kind of doing UV projection and texturing for a more complex object. We use the barrier as an example. And I remember last week, we have started modeling that barrier. Okay, modeling that barrier, and some of you already did a UV mapping of the barrier, which is great. So for those who already modeled the barrier and started the UV mapping, I ask you to save your project and bring it for today's class. Okay, so for other folks, if you haven't moved on to that part, that's okay. Because for today's lesson, for those who haven't moved on to modeling and UV mapping of barrel. So here I provided a model for the download. So we all be on the same page. Okay. So again, for the beginning, let me explain you some of the concepts. Okay, for this procedure. And I ask your attention to see the demonstration. All right. So I'll try my best to get it done in about 20 minutes. So you will have plenty of time to follow. So remember last time we have done UV mapping, right? So for this object, I just make sure my U is recording Zoom. Okay, so recording. All right, so we have two parts, right? And I said for the metal frame here, the top and bottom is the same. So I don't want to waste the time for UV mapping both parts because they are symmetry. So first I'm going to just delete the bottom part, okay? And then I'm gonna hide the metal frame. So this part is called UV because right now, if I select any part of the model, and if I go to the UV editor, you can see that the UV doesn't match the shape of the object at all. And you know, if you want to get a texture very natural, very flat on an object, you need to unfold the surface, which is the skin, right? You need to put it on the 2D surface. So for this barrel body, what I would do is see it for the top and the bottom is just a circle, okay, a rounded shape. And here its original UV is already here because we started from the cylinder. And the only thing we have changed this biggest unit is the center. And even if, for example, if the UV of the top is messed up like this, we can still get it fixed. Okay, so that's the top and bottom face. So what I'm gonna do is I will go to here. I will go to the side view, and in face selection mode, I'm gonna select whole thing, right? And then I'm gonna hold down Control and deselect the center. So that way, well, I will be able to select the top and bottom face. And then I'll go to UV and planar mapping. And I want to project from the top view, the y-axis, because those faces are facing to y, right? Y-axis. So I do project. And here we go. And both of the two faces are overlapped together, right? So what I can do is I can deselect and double click it again and move so I can separate them. And one face is in red, one face is in blue. If you go to UV editor and turn on view shaded UV mode, you will see one is in red, one is blue. I will explain last time. Hey. Oh, sure. So I will explain that if the UV is in red color, that because the faces are inverted, right, upside down. That is because when we do project mapping, we are project from the top. So when you are looking at the top, these faces on the top, it'll be, the positive face will face up, but the bottom face, the negative face, the inverted face will be face up. So that's why the UV kind of get inverted, which is not correct. So in that scenario, I'm gonna just double click on the faces that is in red color, and then go to modify tab and here flip. So as long as you flip it, it will be fine. Okay, so the center part will take majority part, of the time of the editing work. So now you can see that because it was a cylinder, so it kept its original shape like this, right? But here, since we have made the top and the bottom kind of more narrowed, and center part we expanded, so definitely the shape is not correct. So what I can do is, right now this part, this edge is the border of the UV, right? So I can cut in the center, maybe from here, right? Which will be on the other side. See, I can select on the UV shell, or I can go directly select on the object. So select the first one, hold on Shift, double click on the bottom one. So I'm gonna select this edge, and then on the UV, I can hold on Shift key and right key and cut. So they can cut them into separate parts. So that way, if I switch the UV mode and double click, see, I can select them individually. All right, and then, as I said, in my video here, basics, UV mapping a barrel, I showed you the slower way to how to get all of the UV organized in this shell by manually, change the scale. For example, the bottom part should be smaller, right? But what you can do is you can select all UVs and do modify and layer out. So this will make them to be placed into the cell automatically, and it will change their scale relationship, right? Based on the real scale relationship. And again, the side part, as you can see that, still the proportion is not correct. What I can do is I can select both of them, hold on Shift, right click, and then, select both of them, hold on Shift, right click, go to unfold, and unfold again. So here we go. So to get it more accurate, you can apply it multiple times. So here I just hit GK. G is to repeat, that's the command, whatever command you have applied. So here I applied unfold, right? So if I had GK, it's going to apply unfold multiple times. Okay, here we go. And then I can select them again, modify layer out. Here we go. And also, as I mentioned, it's better to leave some space between the borderline and the UV, and also between each individual cells. Okay, but I'm going to leave it for the after I have done the metals. So I'm going to put all of them here on the same map. Okay, so now let's move on to the metal. So here's the metal, and I'm going to select the body of the barrel, hide deselect. And then, so for this part, as you can see, we get a top face and bottom face. They are facing the Y axis, right? And then the side faces, which is here, the side faces, they are surround, it's like a symmetrical shape. So what I can do is, I can select the whole thing, maybe. So select the whole thing, and then go to the side view. So in the side view here, I can hold on Control. That will allow me to deselect the side faces, both outside and inside. And then only the top and bottom will remain selected. So that way, I can do a UV and planar mapping, project from Y-axis and project. So here I'm gonna get the top and bottom faces, right? So I'm gonna select those faces marked in red color and go to modify and flip. I have explained this, right? So this will make them be in the right direction. And also here has some overlap, see? these two shells overlap with each other, which is not correct. So I'm going to just separate them, manually separate them by now. Okay, and then let's focus on this part, which will be, select them in face selection mode, which will be the inner face and outer face. Okay, so what we can do is, I'm gonna select all of them, right? And I can do a cylindrical mapping, which is going to surround the whole thing and do a projection. So that will be cylindrical. This is a cylindrical shape and project. So here we go. Okay, so you're gonna get the whole thing. And then what we'll need to do is, okay, we'll need to see where is the border of the texture. So here you can see the border white line, which is the border of this UV shell. Okay, so that means this UV, it has been to cut from here, this edge. So I'm gonna select whole thing and unfold, unfold. So here we go. Okay, it looks like a mask here. I'm gonna repeat, unfold, unfold again. Okay, looks like a mask here, but see here, if I show the body, okay, and then select both objects, in object mode, and then grab all UVs, and then modify layer out. You're gonna help me to put everything in this cell. Okay, so for this cell, I can export the UV snapshot as a reference image, and then I can do editing. But before I do that, remember I have talked about we need to flip this part to the bottom, right? So as I select it, as you can see that the center point is in the center of the world. Okay, so that means if I just make a duplication, see here's the duplicate part. If I make a duplication and change the scale, and I can flip it to the other part, right? So I just made a duplication, and then I change the scale. That should be the y-axis. See the y-axis. So if I change the scale from 1 to -1, to -1, so you're going to place it to the bottom, and then with it still selected, we'll need to, modify and freeze transformation and delete its history, because as we get -1 for scale, which is not correct. No object should have a minus number for its scale, right? So we need to freeze transformation. So we'll reset its scale info to 1. And then basically it's going to give it a negative information, negative value to the UV, to the texture map, because we have flipped the object scale. So now, as you can see that the UV has been red color, which will be easy. I'm gonna select the whole thing for UV for this part, flip, right? And then we're ready to go. So I'm gonna select the whole object and UV, select the whole thing and do another modify layer out. So this will be the final UV layer out. And you're gonna spend some time to manually kind of organize them a little bit, because machine will speed up your workflow, but it cannot do everything for you, right? So you'll just have to manually kind of space them out a little bit. And I'll just do it very quick here for demonstration purpose. Okay, see here, I kind of just find all the gaps I can get and separate them so they'll not get too close to each other. Here I think I'm going to move this up and move these two up, and this one I'm going to rotate a little bit. So this process will take a little bit of time, but you'll be paid, okay, for what you're doing. So later on your texture will be very accurate. So this will be up, and this is up a little bit, and this can be here. So for this step, you're trying to use all the empty space that left in the scene, right? I think this can be maybe here. Okay, so trying to space them out a little bit. All right, so now I'm done for this step. And next step, what we're going to do is then go back to object mode. Remember, if you just select them in UV selection mode and export the UV snapshot, it will not work. Okay, you need to select them in object mode because you want to export the UV of the whole object. So select them in object mode, go to UV snapshot. And here, image format, choose PNG and 2048 for resolution, and export to desktop, and you can put any name you want. So here I'm gonna say UV burial, edge color as a black color, and apply close. So here, let me save. Okay, so on desktop, here we go. So we got the UV map, and then I'm going to load Photoshop, and I'll also download the texture image. So here for project file, second one, texture file begin. So I want you to also download that part. So for these texture images, we will have, okay, so I'm still downloading in here. Okay, so we'll download the iron texture image, 2 different versions, and the wood texture image. Okay, so it'll be here. So we have this image, this, and this. Okay, 3 different images. So what I want you to do, basically bring your UV map into Photoshop, right? So this layer, I'm gonna say UV, and then I'm gonna create a new layer, place it on the bottom, and fill color with the white color. And this will be BG, which is background. And then I'm gonna knock these 2 layers, which is not necessary. You can do it, you cannot, but I prefer to knock these 2 layers, so I will not be able to edit or touch these 2 layers. And then I'm gonna import any layer that I'm interested in to put in on my model, drop the layers in the center, okay? And then I can do whatever I want to make the texture. For example, here for the wood texture, I'm going to put them together, and then I'm gonna cut the part that I don't want. I'll do a very quick demonstration for this, okay?
Selection of that top photo.
Okay, so I'm going to just do a very quick demonstration. I will only put a wood texture for this part. So here is the 1 layer, right? So this is the wood texture, and then I can create a new one. And for example, I can put any text at here. For example, if I want to say this is a TNT, text is too small, and I can make it a bigger, more big. Okay, and give it a color, white color. I think it's white color. Okay, so this will be the wood texture. So I'm gonna put in 1 folder, this is the wood. And then when you are working on other part like the metal, you're going to import the metal texture here, and you can also drop in rusty texture and change the blending mode, like lighten or multiply, and create all different version of detailed textures. Okay, so as you've done, you will need to hide this UV reference because you don't want this wireframe to show on your texture. So hide it, and then you can save, actually export as. Photoshop changed a lot. I'm not used to the new interface. So export a new JPEG image to desktop. And here I'm gonna see texture burial. All right. And then now we are ready to apply texture to our burial. And remember, I told you that when you are ready to texturing your model, what you should do? The primary thing, first thing you'll have to do, go to a file, tool menu file, project window, create a project window. So here I'll just create a project window on desktop. Okay, this is very important. I try to repeat this because I want everyone to remember this. So here I'm gonna say burial project folder. The reason why I'm doing this is because you want to keep everything organized. So this will create a project folder here on your desktop, right? It has all these subfolders. And you want to drop your texture into this source image folder, which is the texture I just exported. I drop it here. And then you will also need to save your scene, your current scene, into the project folder and then the scenes folder. So here I'm going to see burial step 1. All right, either MB file or MA file is fine. Okay, and save it. And then now you should see that in your project folder, you should have scenes folder, you should have the project file. Okay, so now if I go to rendering editor, Hypershade, and if I create a new material, a number material, and here I see M01 and get a color file. And the file, I'm gonna know this texture image, right? So this material gonna have the texture. And then if I select the whole thing and apply, assign, and press 6K to display, so the texture will be on your model. And since I haven't moved on to the metal, okay, and also the top, so those area will show in white color, but if you go back to your texture editor and continue to work on the textures, and the texture will show up on the rest of the part. Okay, so now what I want you to do. Here's the first link, right? UV mapping a barrel. So first we're going to download the model from this link, the barrel model. So I want you to work on the first model, first one, step 1, UV mapping, and follow this UV mapping tutorial. But as I said, the process is very slow in the video, and you can advance, you can speed up by simply use the tools like a layer out. So you're going to automatically put everything together, right? So you don't have to manually scale them up and down. So in the video, whenever I'm manually adjusting the scale, skip that part, just go to the key part that, okay, put everything together and export UV snapshot and then move on to texturing. So just skip to those key part. And then you're going to download the texture from the second link, texture files, begin and download them and start to texture this barrel. So both these 2 videos for today are the basics, which is mandatory for you to kind of practice. Okay, so I'm gonna give the rest time for you. So where is the, oh, okay. It'll work. I don't know why this guy goes out. I might restart to the.
I don't know. But sure, so
I think I'm gonna do it. There we go. Don't worry, there's no bump. There's no bumping.
Same video as last week.
I don't know why it's not. But the class. Oh, yeah. Just given time, so I want you to start off with 7 minutes. So after 7 minutes, it's about to be.
no,
Okay.
Ideally, you should already have
or
it.
it's sort of what, and then
Yeah.
I
So I
restarted.
was already at
Okay.
17.
It's like
Yeah,
I
then
really
we
have
can
this,
do
like,
it.
this, other stuff, but like, I can't get into. Yeah.
So this is the finished version of the barrel, the texture version, which I want everyone to achieve after today's class. So basically here, let me show you the maps. So we have a diffuse map, we have a normal map, we have a specularity map, and here's the result. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, like this part is yeah, like the little the bottom side.
Okay. Oh, it's like the whole object instead of the faces. You select the faces. Okay, only the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, you like it, so just
Oh.
Gatsby version of so just go to legacy and it'll have the old way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens because remember also 3D is when you create more complex carbon model. Also 3D allows you to select the edge decide where to cut.
Yeah.
So we did that in advanced video, advanced modeling class. And that's why it has two different methods.
Yeah.
You can use it to the center, so the same space. That's fine. Yeah, I think it looks nice. I need to make sure on the side and color. Yeah. So zero part these are different numbers. Because we're gonna use that one along in advanced so when we record that video, because it is that for the elemental class, so we have an open one. So it is just a plugin you have to enable with this out. When we record the video, now with this out, it doesn't show up.
All of those islands of UVs.
Yeah. Okay, next one. So this is supposed to be slide weighted graph. Yeah. Have you done that one as well? No. Yeah. So so I would select the whole thing here. So I will select all the faces on the side. So these ones include inner faces, outer faces, and analytics will exclude the bottom and top. Yeah. So eventually, if you get the faces outside, what do you want to do to see all the faces there? You want to put a camera along, around it, right? So that what needs to be invisible. So if you just circle, if you have circle, yes, you're going to basically exclude all the faces outside. All over together, there can be all together, so you can double click and move that together. And definitely, you still need some more text. Probably you can see at the top is shorter, here at the bottom is longer. So fundamentally, that is really open and shape and right. Right. So I prefer to do all the pieces together to save the time instead of doing one by one. Okay, so after that, so what is so basically, also a lot of things. So you get a cell phone is a free object. And if you want to make a texture for it, you make all the faces and then on the sample is sample. And in this case, sample the scale proportion is different than the real scale proportion. Sample is granted original. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we unfolding the time or fire is just a little for original model for the scale proportion. So that was the sample. So yeah, sample and what about here? I need to and then you can do all these open. So we will run if we're ready. So if I click on the all there, then together so we can because I think it's like all pieces. So the what I prefer to do is I want to select all pieces. So those usually are pieces of down. So I would okay. So select the open and then hold on control. And you here, the only top and bottom, and then you want to do so you might within your trajectory going to be from different axes. So for this case, particularly, you have taken up and down, so that's why you're going to get it all faces. Correctly, that's all faces. Then you will only have this. So that when I get the part that I only here grab this part and because I already have all that bottom. And also you can see so you will usually it's like a 15, right? On the side basis. And then for the side basis, because the technology shape in the
you also have to make sure that these are all being to describe
and here are other ones. Also from view, the one with the one full mode, or you can turn on 3D mode. So this will also show you the color. So view, working, I see and then next I think we need to do is the unfold, which is from different unfold is we need some real proportion direction model. Why we do that is because for example, these cases particularly the top edges they are shorter, the bottom edges are longer, but here they treat it equally. And also each face, like we can see, each face is still proportion also different. So we'll have to select here for the sheet, spreadsheet, and unfold. There we go. So now you don't make it as the real proportion of the model. But I always do it. Instead of doing it one-to-one, I always always keep it as the same as that one. Interface and here. And do them all together. So you can see them. it's not that perfect. For example, here is some. Like that, where you can just grab a set of parts from the shape and apply it again. Right, fix that. And then here, as I said, these are the references. If you have from the right. Yeah, so it's like I'm modified. Here. Okay. And then as you get everything here, instead of manually scale them down and see the scale shape based on the cell here and like that, modify zero. That's the narrow. And then I think you can jump along the video. Okay. So yes. So anytime if you want to get to a special window, so number one, number two is our window. So for the window, here at the bottom. So here is the color. So yes, already cut it. So already cut on that side. And outside, they already cut it here, so it's fine. Don't have to cut it again. So for outside faces, you have we will do protecting. They already cut here. So that means the outside face is here, and inside face is already have the border here. So now we can do double click, just like open, double click, right click, and go to control. There we go. That's right. You already get it everything correct. And to get them back into the cell here, you can open, modify, and there is just one command. Instead of we sort of have to manage it for the long stuff. We'll get some spaces.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you understand what it is. Okay. So, before you move on to that, remember we need one more about needed. So can we need it? Remember how to make it? So I'll show you and then I'll debate what I've done. Okay. So the command D maybe and because it's the y-axis, so we can change. There we go. And as I said, this is not good as you have negative value for a model, so you won't have to before you make this create transformation. So you can use that on the settings. And you're going to put the negative value on the UV. Okay. So negative information on the UV is going to modify. And then you can drag the holes and all UV and modify and there out. So you can go there on them again. And then just to do some final adjustment. Okay.
So I should organize that.
Yeah. So now we go to the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'll mention with it. So there are. So this will be the near of merging. Okay. So when you are doing this yourself, trying to do it like this, to speed somehow a little bit, but since we have very little time, so I want to just keep like this and do okay. So while you are modeling for your own project, that's something to make it so I said when you are exporting the map, what should you put directly here and if it's special or if it's like a modeling object, remember? See, if I write out, I'm in the UV with all the points, so it means I'm not in all the solutions. So I go to the dashboard. And then I thought, see, it doesn't work. Yes. Like I also do that thing. And then you can watch picture. Yes. Okay. These are all physics right. Okay. Interface of objects. The reason why it doesn't like this is because all pieces are connected. Right? And that makes all pieces are connected, so it can't separate them. If for this one, see, you have the context which oh, you have had
Is that proven to be a custom?
yes. You have had you have order here. So basically what you need to do is select here this add, select this add, here and here. And open shift key, right? You don't have this one, you can that much here. So the shift right here and up around and different stuff. We can select all that. Right here. Beautiful. And it looks good. I know some areas there be some work, but it's fine since time is valuable, so I wanted to just go ahead export UV and move on to texture. It is some work, but it doesn't critically affect the texture. So we need to select all the mode, all the mode, and then the ghost. Yeah. Yeah, it's just bothering you on the preview, but it will not affect any of the texture.
Okay,
So
I didn't know. But yeah, it looks fine there. So.
yeah, I know there's a way to turn it off, but there's an email. Right? I'll forward it to you. As I mentioned earlier, so you can manually move them, so there's a quicker way. So you can just click on UVs and to modify, and they're out. You know that. Gotcha. Okay. So now I think you're almost done. So just move this a little bit, and then I want you to move on to the section part because for UV netting you get everything correct. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. So you want to start using again, which is the same concept. Okay. So I want you, well, I'm here while you're in class. If you want to get some time to practice the text part. Okay. So to transfer the UV, right now we're in the UV selection mode, right? So if you do UV snapshot, so if you do UV snapshot, you don't know what you don't know what because those as your selection. Okay. Then go to image snapshot, and here you can export it to desktop. So the name so you can see. Okay. And the GCAD image format and the flat code. So you will have a image on desktop, which you can start to. Oh, okay. PNG image format. Sorry, so I get the wrong one. Catch panel is black color. So now you should have a PNG image with a wireframe. So now move on to capture. go to the reviews for a second. Nice. So everything's good. Here you can go to view. Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha. So your shaded next. Your class. Great. So now you get a picture. Yeah, I think you can try to type out to your model. When you export your picture, just make sure your class. Yeah, so what already. So these will be the confused map, which is color map. And we have null map and another map. So I'm going to show you how to be based on the text map. But you get a text map, which is great. Try to put some text on the arrow.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing next.
Try to adjust the scale a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember, there's a way to do it faster. It's like a open, modify, now. There. So you will manually adjust the gauge to see some scale initiative on the model. So yeah, so you don't need it. Okay. So for your UV, now everything looks good. Looks perfect. Okay. And the rest of that is for you to, for example, for you to move it in bigger pieces and use some gas between the shell and also the transformer. Right. That's the next step. And also you can duplicate this one and make it. So you know how to do that, right?
Yeah.
So now I want you to go on to the next step because I don't want you to waste as much time here. So you're gonna select your modeling object right now. All the UVs appear here. So image, give it snapshot, and here you want to do a PNG image, and this is the correct image dimension, and I want you to make a light color to light color so it's easier to see. So now on your desktop, you should have these image. Okay, so now move on to the texture. If you have for your adjust the scale or rotate that. So there's a quicker way to do that. So you can turn UV. I don't think it's important video. So turn rotate on the UV, modify, and now manually scale up and down on the angry side. You'll scale indicate. And you want to format everything into this scale. Okay. And I think John this take a lot of you. And want the cars switch. Oh, you already have this part to switch. So you can select both of them in object mode. Okay, so running object mode. So you're gonna have this UV. So and then UV select all UVs and do this again, modify. And yeah. So now they're all right. Okay, so I know there's a two things you have to do, right? So first you have to using this one needs to the other side. This is first thing. My second thing, you'll need to space out so you get a little bit. For example, here, here. You'll need to move them away from the shell, and this shell, you want to move it away from the border edge. Okay, so that you will need to do that for your project, your model. You want to make it texture with text. What you want, don't want your texture to have some collision with each other, or texture have some. Okay. But for today, I just don't want to compare like this. So I want to move the next step, which is create a model in open mode, right? Right. So all the view of here, and then you can go to image and the snapshot and browse to desktop, and you want to see the image name like a UV arrow or something that you can okay. Image format, choose PNG, with the information and color. You want to but that's fine. So we can so use the black color, that's fine. So here on that oh, okay. So on that top you should find the UV, and then you can copy it into Photoshop and make it. So if you have a few minutes left, so I want you to copy it into Photoshop, make texture for you. Like the direction of each one has to be one thing. Oh yeah. Okay. It's fine. Just leave it there. So that's what I meant is when you're in UV wireframe and you take them out. But since I just want to get you know to make the texture, but you can keep that slightly. But for your project, if you squeeze them out enough, you can here, they show them enough, then you shouldn't have that problem. So next step, I demonstrate how to make a normal map, secondary map, or different other maps based on this. So if you want to use your own version of it, you can save your project and have a backup, have a copy. Okay, cool.
No, like I'm like, oh, no, it's
So,
literally.
maybe copy of your files and show up on your own file.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we have 2 minutes left. I want to talk about some thing we're going to do for next class. Okay. So here, this is the finished version of the barrier, right? So let's take a look at it. If I have a light move around it, as you can see, so basically it has no map, right? You can see the edge. The edge, it has those bumps based on the texture of the wood. And it also has a specular map. If you look at the rusty kind of texture on the metal, so some part it reflects light, some part does not reflect light. So basically what we're going to do for next class, okay, so this is what you already created, right? Texture map. This is called, you can call it a color map, or you can call it a diffuse map. And based on this texture map, okay, we're going to create a normal map. So previously we used an app called Crazy Map. I know the name is crazy map. The app called crazy map to make this one, but it doesn't have a newer version of it. So we're going to use a Photoshop to do that. And we're also going to create a spectral narrative map. And we will do the whole thing in Photoshop. And this will be the topic for our next class. Okay, so I'll see you on Wednesday.